Hello, Michael, and thank you for asking this question. I'm sure other people have this question as well, and I'm going to do my best to answer it. This question was asked by Michael in my friend Stephen Black's Unstoppable FBA Marketing Hacks for Amazon Sellers Facebook group. It's an awesome group. Check it out if you haven't been there yet. Stephen has so much awesome content there. I mean, so much. So, anyway, Michael asks, I know it's recommended to hire a Chinese lawyer for NNN agreements, but do you guys usually hire a lawyer for purchase agreements as well? Or do you use an online template and have only an English version? Thanks. Okay. well, whenever you're dealing with sourcing in another country, you want to follow that country's legal system. So when I source in China, I have a Chinese attorney. And when I source in other countries, when I source in the US, I have a US based attorney, right? So I highly recommend that you hire a Chinese attorney, an attorney in China. How can you find one of those? Well, you can ask your US based attorney to recommend someone in China. And then, it's on them to do some due diligence and recommend somebody really good for you. So I have an attorney in China. He is amazing, and he does many things for me. First of all, I love, Michael, that you brought up NNN agreements. So everyone might be wondering, what is an NNN agreement and why does it matter? Well, an NNN agreement covers three areas: non-disclosure, non-circumvention, and non-compete. And so instead of just doing an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, like we do often in the US before we've patented a product or something like that, we want to, in China, do an NNN agreement. And so it's important that this NNN agreement is in both Chinese and English, and that the supplier signs it with their actual Chinese name, not the English name that they give you, like Bob's Widgets. That's just a fun name that they make up. It's not what they're actually registered with, and it won't actually hold up in a China court of law. So you want to make sure that the agreement that you have done is written in Chinese and in English, and that they actually sign it with their Chinese name that is registered in China as a Chinese business, right? So that if things were to have to go to court, that would be the name that's on the agreement, right? If I sign an agreement here in the US and I sign it as Bob O'Leary, I'm going to be like, well, this agreement says it's Bob O'Leary that signed it, and I can't be responsible for that. That's not Amy Weiss or any of my businesses. So you want to make sure that it's their company. So the reason you want to use a Chinese attorney is because, number one, they can look over the agreement and they can make sure that the person that signed it is actually registered, that that's their real company name, that they're actually registered. And secondly, that they actually are signing it with the proper stamp. In China, they have to use a seal when they sign. It's a red seal, and it has to be on the document in order for it to hold up in court. So in a recent a deal that I'm doing right now with the factory actually signed it with their import-export company's name. And they didn't use the red seal. They used like a blue stamp with some Chinese. It looked very official. I don't know. But my Chinese attorney looked at it and said, Amy, this is not the name that matches their signature block. And this is not the name that is registered for their factory here in China. So if you were to sue them, you would have problems, right? This would not hold up in court. So that would be a problem, right? So then the second part of your question, Michael, is so the bottom line is you guys want to make sure that you have a Chinese attorney drop an NNN agreement. You don't use some boilerplate that you got in a course, because even if I used a boilerplate, and I used a boilerplate agreement and I sent it to my Chinese attorney, and he was like, actually, it looks pretty good. I made a couple of tweaks, but he showed me, he looked and saw that this factory was not signing it the way that they needed to sign it. And then he called them and talked with them to ensure that, you know, they were attaching their company like license and registration, and everything was legit, right? And that didn't cost me that much money. It was like a couple $100, right? So it's very worthwhile to take the time to hire a Chinese attorney. The other document, it's back to your question, the other document that my Chinese attorney does for me is a document called General Conditions. And the General Conditions document goes along with the NNN agreement, goes along with the purchase order, and it covers all of the legal aspects of the order. So for example, the warranty on the goods. If I order this product and in 6 months, all the seams start coming apart, that would be covered under this warranty. I would be able to get my money back, right? The other things that it covers is like delivery timelines and guidelines. So if they promise to deliver within a certain date and it's now 90 to 180 days later and I still don't have my goods, well, that's a problem. My business is losing money. You want to have a document that's going to protect you, a contract that's going to protect you. So that is the other document that I have my Chinese attorney do, is the general conditions document. And that can be renewed over time. Like it doesn't have to, you know, as I reorder over time, we can just update the dates and we don't have to redo that from scratch every time. So that is the second document. So NNN agreement, and in Chinese and in English, make sure it's signed by the right people with the red stamp. And then your general conditions document covers your warranty, your order, your timelines, all of that kind of stuff. And then you do the other things that I do is a spec document. So this is where I put all of the information of my, the details of my product. So if I'm ordering this water container here, I'm going to make sure that I say, okay, there's a line here and there's a line here and the bottom is rubber and the cap looks like this and it's this wide and it's, you know, this long and it's made of this material and it comes with a straw and all of these things. And I'm going to attach that spec document to the purchase order so that way there's no questions. And then the final thing that I also do is I always have an inspection done. So this inspection, I always have an inspection company. I love Kima. I love V-Trust. Both of them are really good inspection companies. I have them go in and inspect the goods. You can do it halfway through production. If it's a brand new company that you haven't worked with before, you can do it halfway through production. They can kind of take a look at it. That way all the goods aren't produced and they're all wrong. And then you can do one final inspection, an AQL inspection before your goods leave the factory. So those 4 elements right there are going to protect you. They're going to make sure that you have a solid order, that you have solid legal protection, and if anything happens, that you are good to go, that you're not going to lose your entire investment. I hope this has been super helpful. Let me know if you have any questions, and thanks again for asking the questions so that everybody can learn.